pretty official.
Yep. I'm gonna say thank you, Mr. Haney. Thank you, Mr. Haneke. I'd like to call the meeting to order, our regular Thursday, April 10th, 2025 meeting. If everyone would stand with me if able, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have a prayer provided by Councilman Orr. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we ask that you bless this gathering and all those participating. We also ask that you watch over our staff, our council, our police department, our firemen, our legal counsel in their daily activities. Be with them and keep them well. We also ask that you watch over our citizens in their daily activities. Most of all, this Easter season, may we pause and reflect the sacrifice you've given for our salvation. Amen.
Amen. Saving the good ones till the end. Okay, first of all, I want to welcome everyone, and if you haven't signed up to speak in citizens' presentations or an agenda item, just let me know when I get to that item, and then I'll just put your name on here, and then you can obviously come to the podium and speak. That being said, we're going to jump into our first agenda item, which is City Manager's Report.
Mayor, Council, I guess I go first. If I could get you to turn to page 1 through 10. We renewed 3 CDs at Fayette Savings Bank and 1 CD at Prosperity Bank. And I'll let you go through all the accounts payable. If you have any questions, we'll answer those for you.
What is a line locator?
Well, it's a tool that they use to, it's like a metal detector basically that they use to locate lines, and then they spray paint the lines.
Underground?
Underground, yeah.
So what kind of lines?
These are for water, Derek, water, sewer?
All of our underground utilities, water, sewer, electric, anything that we could hook onto and trace.
Oh, okay.
But it also is GPS, everything also that we locate.
Good deal.
We'll figure it out. Good. Okay. Kurt, you okay?
Okay, the next,
So you-
the next report will be from Derek in Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. First things first, Rise, they're done boring through town. So they got a few yards and stuff like that they need to fix up and work on. but they ran roughly 114,000 feet through Weimer of underground throughout town, and they're going around just pulling cables, and they still got to do the final connections and all that, but they're got their machines all out of here, so it's just pulling cable now. Then we had a sewer collapse at 112 West Main Street. That was on our end. It's just an old clay line that just collapsed in 2 different locations. So we went ahead and did repairs to that. 606 Park Drive, we had a 2-inch water main break. That was just, I guess, everything's starting to heat up, ground's starting to shift again. So we're going to start seeing some more breaks. But that was a 2-inch line break we had there. We did out on County Road 253 line extension for residents that bought a piece of property. So we ran 2 poles and ran wire and all that to get power to them. Well number 6 is back in operation, and they went ahead and we got the water sample back this week, so it's full operation now. It's pumping roughly about 370 gallons per minute. Then we had a few little individual outages, but nothing major. That's all we had within the last month. Questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you.
We thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next report will be from Josh Jones, the police department.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Y'all have my report in front of y'all. So for the month of March, we had 370 calls for service. Out of that, 15 offense reports were generated. Out of those 15 offense reports, 4 arrests were made. On the chart, I would like you to look at the big blue section. That is department activity. As y'all know, we went through and did stuff with the evidence room and cleaned up and reorganized and everything. So what we did, that big blue department activity, was we're moving all of that evidence from Tyler Encode into eForce. So we're not having to track 2 different systems when we go through and do an audit and an inventory. So that's that big blue section. It's not like there's anything big and major happening right now. We had 147 traffic stops. 107 of those were warnings. 33 were citations, and 7 were verbal warnings. When we issue a verbal warning, it's usually because someone gets a call, they have to break away from the traffic stop. It's just something of that nature to where it just indicates that we have to go right away. So out of those, they still are documented. They're just documented on the back end and not right there at the time of the traffic stop. 31 days reporting. Out of the 370 calls, we average about 11.93 calls to service a day. That's on average. Some days we go less, some days we go more. So everything else that you see is a decrease. It's just the kind of the ups and downs of, our police work. I like to think that we're working ourselves out of a job, but, we never will. We did hire a new officer. She's not here tonight. I'll introduce you formally to her next month at council meeting. Her name is Lucy. She comes from the Austin Round Rock area. She's got about 6.5 years experience. She's a mental health officer. She's an advanced peace officer, bilingual. Actually, she's a naturalized citizen, so her Spanish is her first language. So if y'all see her, say hi. I'm sure she'll say hi. Trying to get her loosened up and talk. She's really kind of standoffish right now, so I'm trying to get her to talk a little bit more. We did have an animal bite. There were 2 dogs got into a fight. Little girl tried to break up, bit her hand. The owner of the animal was voluntarily quarantined her dog with Colorado Valley Vet in Columbus for 10 days. Got the report back, no signs of aggression. It just happened to be that the dogs were in a fight, loose in their front yard together. Provided all the vaccines, rabies updates, everything of that nature to us. So the dog was good to come back. It wasn't deemed as a dangerous animal or anything like that. We're doing another background check on another officer. So After, if all goes well, we will be full staffed after that. It's a guy out of Kentucky. He had his peace officer license. He wants to move back, and he chose us to come to. So we just talked to him today. Do y'all have any questions for me?
How many officers are we short right now?
That's kind of a caveat right now. We're kind of in limbo with the SRO spot. So the superintendent had a meeting with the sheriff this past Monday. Kind of an information meeting, let the sheriff pitch their percentages to them. He's going to take that before the school board on this coming Monday, and we should know something if they're going to go with the sheriff's office or continue with us. Good thing about this other applicant, if they continue with us, he is an SRO right now in the other state, so if they do continue with us, he'll just slide right onto that spot, but we still would have another patrol officer. If not, and they choose to go with the sheriff's office, we will be full staffed and by bringing him on.
Which if I had to guess, with the way we've been dragging our feet, they're probably gonna go with them more than likely. Just being honest.
Yeah, probably.
So-
I mean, I'm talking to him to see, and it wasn't much less the dragging of the feet. It was just the applicant pool that we had. We didn't have much. We had a couple applicants come through, but no one made the cut. So, fingers crossed that they do stay with us because we are Weimer,
Correct.
and would love to have a Weimer PD patrol car sitting in their driveway, but, at the end of the day, it boiled down to business.
Correct.
So, any other questions?
Just a comment, I have certainly noticed, as others have, your visibility.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
I appreciate that too. I really try to be out in public a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
And from City. Thank you.
Misty? Library report?
Good evening, council, mayor, Weimer. All right, for the library, we have our monthly library visits. We're surprisingly come up with the same amount of visitors in February that we did in March, which is 500. It's usually lower than we usually are in March. Don't know what happened there. The audio and ebooks online for Libby, we had 30 for audiobooks and we had 94 ebooks. So that's a good numbers for people being online using their electronic. Right now, we still have 17,560 holdings, meaning books or materials in our library. So we're still weeding out some books, trying to get some more in, so we're still trying to accomplish that. Right now, we have 1,723 patrons in our library, so it's really great. Right now, on loan, we have 273 materials out and about, which keeps around the same number about every month, so it's pretty good. For the month of April, we had a good turnout with our arts and crafts. We did a Crackle Bunny. We had the adults and some children come and do the Crackle Bunny with us. It almost felt like a science experiment. So it was pretty cool watching the bunnies. You do the paint and put a little glue, and then you put another paint on it and you watch it crackle. So it was pretty fun doing that. Friends of the Library had just started their Walk Across Texas program, which I am happy to say that we have 11 teams competing, and that will be ending up until May. And tonight, I want to invite everybody to our Friends of Library Poetry Open Mic Night. So if you got a poem that you want to come and do it over the speaker to everybody in Weimer or anybody from guests from around, come to the City Gazebo today after the meeting, 6:30. See you there. Coming up, we do have a reminder that Good Friday, the library will be closed, but we will be open on Monday. We will be showing a movie, Turbo, rated PG, at 2 p.m. to 3:45 at the library. We'll be serving free popcorn and water, so hopefully you can come join us. Let's see. And don't forget that we have our book sale coming up in May. Saturday, May 3rd at 8 to noon on that day to come get some books from the library so we can get some new ones. Any questions, anybody? Oh, I do want to mention too, our accreditation is complete. We turned it into state. All I have to do is get some signatures, and then we'll wait for September to see if our library gets accredited again for this year. Yes. All right, all good?
Very good, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, you have your phone ready?
For 6:30.
6:30?
I heard her say that. He's been practicing.
I didn't see you put it in your calendar.
Sorry, trying to sneak out.
Watch this. Turn it over right there.
Ooh, there it is.
As soon as I tap at 6:30, we're done.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, agenda. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. What do you think? Go ahead.
I want to forget too, we have snacks and drinks.
Oh. You want to come back up here and say that? No. Okay, agenda item number 4, citizens' presentation and comments. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the posted final agenda will only be heard by City Council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by City Council. Does anyone wish to speak in citizens' presentation and comments? Okay, move to agenda item number 5, proclamation and recognition of recognitions. We don't have any. Okay. Agenda item number 6, presentations. Presentations only, no action required. Under A, we have option for building inspector instead of safe build. Anybody request that?
Well, it was on there to come to this meeting, I guess, with options, but I think, is it posted now? Building inspector?
Position.
It is.
No, it's not.
I think that'd be a start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's post, I mean, we're all in agreement with it.
Okay, we'll get that posted.
Agenda item B, Frontier Fiber Plan in Weimar. Frontier's Fiber Plan in Weimar. David, do you want to speak in this part, or do you want to do it in
And
the?
this is where you're gonna do your presentation?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. If you could help me, David.
Derek could have done that. Is that what he's doing? Oh, okay.
You should be able to plug it in that port, one of those ports there.
This one, all right. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that's right. There we go. It's the, there we go. There we go. All right, and then we go, right here. Yeah, there we go. All right, thank you very much, appreciate that. Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, city staff, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Russell. I'm Vice President of External Affairs for Frontier Communications. And I am pleased to be able to tell you tonight about Frontier's plans to build a new fiber optic network here in Weimar. Now, I know you just heard the report that you just got a new network from a different competitor of ours, and that's great news. We're going to be offering some competition, but we're not going to be doing it the way that they did it. I'll tell you more details about that. I know you just got boring rigs out of town, and you may be thinking, oh, well, crap, now we're getting a bunch more of that. But it's not going to work out quite that way. But we're going to be building this fiber optic network. I'll tell you our timeline about it. And we met in February with members of the city staff to make them aware of our plans. And then I was asked to come back and share details with that and the public tonight about the advanced services this new network will provide, how we plan to communicate with the public about what we're doing, and then our coordination with the city and our methods of construction. With me tonight is Court Peterson. Court is our Director of Operations for South Texas for Frontier, and Ryan O'Neill. Ryan's our Director of Construction and Engineering for the state of Texas for Frontier. So they're here to answer any questions at the end of this that I may not be able to deal with. Let's see if I can drive this. There we go. First, I want to talk about the fiber optic technology. You may have already heard some about this because obviously you are experiencing some fiber optics here in the community. But we're going to be building this network by extending fiber optic cables to customers' homes and businesses directly from our local switching center here in the community. The fiber itself is ultra pure glass. It's as thin as a human hair. And then we use high intensity lasers to project communications over the different wavelengths of light into the home or business. But it will not replace our copper network. We're not allowed to take people off of the copper network. That's something that's controlled by the Federal Communications Commission. But that's an advantage that we have, is we have a pre-existing copper network that's been in place for decades here. The problem is the copper technology just is not adequate for today's technological needs. That's why we made the decision to invest with fiber. Now, this is an investment that we're making out of our capital dollars. It's not a grant program. There's no taxpayer dollars in this. This is all private capital that we've raised to make this investment in your community and in the future of our company. So people can stay on copper if they want to do that. But this new network will provide amazingly fast broadband services with the potential to provide even faster services in the future. That's what we mean when we say this is future-proof technology. So the new network is going to be providing broadband speeds up to 7 gigabits per second, which is incredibly fast. And our network is symmetrical. That means you get the same speed for both downloads and uploads. With more people working from home and uploading videos through Teams calls or Zoom calls, upload speeds are even more important than they used to be. And when people eventually need even faster speeds, all we have to do is upgrade the equipment in our switching center locally, and we already know we can provide speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, and we've tested speeds up to 100 gigabits per second in our labs, which is amazingly fast. Nobody really needs that kind of speed today, but they didn't need 7 gigs 20 years ago. So we know that technology is not going to sit still. So fiber is also much easier to maintain than copper service. It's not subject to any electrical interference because there is no electricity on the fiber. And so if it comes close to electrical, there's no impact on the network. It's also not subject to any weather interference. With copper cables, if the insulation is nicked and moisture gets in underneath that insulation, it can cause static on the line, and eventually it can lead to the service being disconnected. That's not going to happen with the fiber. We could lay the fiber cable in a lake and it wouldn't affect it at all. So it's much more reliable than the old copper network. So here are some customer impacts of the new network. The fiber to the home that we'll be providing, we're going to run the fiber down the streets in the neighborhoods, and then when a customer calls us to connect to the service, we'll provide a device in their home, a router device, that they will use to connect their devices to the network, either through a wired Ethernet connection or more commonly through a wireless Wi-Fi connection that the router will create within their home. This can be for voice service, computer data, or streaming services for entertainment. Two other important points I want to make. With some companies, a customer has to share the bandwidth with other people in their neighborhood. And so you might be getting 500 megabits, but when everybody gets home from work, turns on the TV, logs on their computer, gets on their phone, whatever, the speed slows down because it's a shared speed. So that's not the way our network is. We have a fiber connection directly from our switching center to your home or business. And so if you sign up for 500 megabits from us, that's exactly what you get. And it's both a download and an upload speed. Because I emphasize that because with some companies, you'll get a download speed, but you may get a much slower upload speed. Not all networks are symmetrical. So customers need to be aware of that when they make their decisions about who to sign up with. Now, how will we get this done? This slide shows the processes we're going to go through to build this network. As I said earlier, we already met with the staff to discuss our detailed plans, local permitting, the location of city utilities, and any ordinances that might affect our project. As I said before, our construction will follow the path of our pre-existing copper network, which is 94% aerial. That means no boring where it's aerial. We're going to overlash the fiber cable to our existing copper cables. That goes much quicker. There's much less opportunity for any disruption. There is 6% of the network that is buried, so there will be some directional boring, but a very limited amount. And I'll talk more about the boring aspect of it in just a minute. Now, residents, that website there, if residents want to go to that website, they can learn a lot more about our construction processes. And none of this is marketing material. This is all just about the technology and the construction. That's what my presentation's about. And the communications that we're going to be talking about here in just a minute, that's what all of that's about. None of this is marketing material. Now, as we build, part of our communications are going to be door hangers that we'll put out in the affected areas. This is what the door hangers look like. We have them available in both English and Spanish. And like I said, they're not marketing materials. They have an email and a phone number that people can call if they have questions or concerns that are answered and dealt with by our employees, Frontier employees. They also have a QR code on there people can scan with their smartphone if they want. It'll take them to a website with a lot more information. Now, we know people are going to contact you guys and the city staff, but we're going to do what we can to try to take as much of that load off of your shoulders as possible. In addition to the door hangers, we post signs at the main entry points to the area where we're going to be working, and this is what they look like. They're about the size of a yard sale sign. They're down low so they won't obstruct vision when people are driving, but they hopefully will help people know why these people are in their neighborhood. We post them at the beginning of a build site on a street and at the end of it, and then we take them up. We don't leave them up overnight, and we move them with the construction as we're building, so they don't stay up. We also require that our contractor take pictures and or video, more commonly, of each street as we begin work so that we know what it looked like before we started work, and we can make sure that we can restore it that way if there's anything that's out of place when we finish construction on that area. This is a picture, or some pictures of the directional boring work for the small amount of directional boring we're going to be doing. We don't cut city streets. There's no open trenching. On the picture on the right, that orange tubing there is conduit that we pull through the boreholes, and then the fiber optic cable is pulled through that. And then safety is really important to us for not just our employees, but our customers as well. And so the picture on the left shows that orange safety fencing. That's where we were going to put a buried cabinet called a handhole, and we weren't able to place it that day, so we put the fencing up to make sure that no pets or children would be able to stumble into that before we could place the cabinet in there and then fill that in. That'll also be true for the bore holes for the directional boring. We'll make sure that those are filled in as well, but if we for some reason can't do it that day, we'll put up safety fencing around it to make sure that it's not something that people could just step into. For the limited amount of buried construction, we're not going to have a lot of these. This is a buried terminal that we call a handhole. I've got one of these at the front of my property at my house. It goes in the public right-of-way, and you don't really notice it once you get used to seeing it. But since most of the construction is aerial, most of the residents will have an aerial drop that comes to their home, and I'll show you a picture of how that connects to the house here in just a second. The one thing that you will see above ground is what we call the fiber hub, and that's me with a fiber hub near my house. That's a cabinet that connects a neighborhood. It connects about 200 homes, so there'll be several of those around town. But they go in the right-of-way, and we already have pre-existing smaller hubs for the copper network, and normally these are located really adjacent to those. But we provide detailed plans to the city staff as part of this construction, and it will indicate on our plans exactly where we're planning to place those hubs. That's where our engineers have decided to put them. But if for some reason they would go in an inconvenient place, let's say it was a historical site, or there's some other reason why the city would prefer it not be there, we can work with the city staff to move those hubs some around. We have some flexibility with that. But that's about the only thing that people will see above ground. Going to the aerial part of it, which will be most of the construction here, you know what aerial cables look like, and so we're just going to be providing a much smaller, lighter fiber cable to the existing utility poles. We don't plan to put in new poles unless we find if there's some of our poles that are not safe, we'll replace those poles. And if there's some of your poles, for example, I know later on in the agenda, you've got the joint use agreement that we're working on with the city, because, you know, we might need to use some of your poles. So if it's one of your poles and we don't deem it to be safe, we'll let you know, and we can talk about what needs to happen to make sure that things are kept safe for the consumers. Then when we do attach the fiber optic drop line to the house, it connects to a little box like that called the optical network terminal. It's about 12 inches square. I've got one outside my garage at my house. And so the fiber optic, in this one, it's a buried drop. It's a black line, the black wire that's coming up from the ground there in the middle to that box. That box is wired into the device inside the house, the router. There's another device that's really kind of a router, but we call it something different. But we provide that device as part of the service to the consumer when they subscribe, and then that's what they plug into, or that's what creates the Wi-Fi network inside the home. Let's see. We plan to begin construction this summer with a goal of wrapping up construction by the end of November, and we plan to build to over 1,200 homes here throughout the community, which will pretty much cover, I think, the city limits footprint. I've provided some general information to Mr. Mason about our construction so the city can share it with residents on your website or social media outlets to let folks know what's happening. One of the things I would call your attention to that's different from our competitors is that because we're a state certificated communications provider, the phone company is what we kind of used to be referred to, that we pay a franchise fee to the city for all the customers who sign on to our network. So that's a benefit to the city that you might not get from some of our competitors. I know it's, you know, not a big deal, and it's not something you can promote, but we would like for you to be aware that we've had a network here for decades. We're making this investment in community because we plan to be doing business here for decades to come. And so we're looking forward to partner with you on this, and we'd be more than happy to try to respond to any questions that you might have.
Do you know currently how many, I guess the percentage throughout Weimar that you're currently serving, that you have lines out right now, wise, by chance?
How many customers we have on the copper
I
network?
would say that, or like the copper wires that are running through the town right now. If you have any idea of kind of, it's,
Court is my expert on the copper network.
The only product we have right now is POTS telephone.
That's plain old telephone service, POTS.
Telephone,
Okay.
dial phone to the house. It's down now below 200.
gotcha.
200 total customers.
Because, I'll just go ahead and I'll pass it through those. I'll give you a couple pictures. So with the current, not saying no other providers, but, you know, through town, right now, you drive through town, it's nothing but an eyesore, and because it's not being maintained. And so I don't know in the contract if there could possibly be, you know, height requirements at the pole and at the sag and, you know, trimming the trees and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, right now it's not being done, but again, I'm not saying it's y'all's service that is not keeping up with that, right now, but it would be definitely something we'd want in the contract.
Well,
for sure.
so as we go through and as we place the fiber, we talked to the city staff about this last month. So we'll have to be doing some limb trimming because there's some limbs that would, you know, threaten to damage the network. But we'll clean the network up, the copper network up as we go, since we're using it as the base. So that's why I said if there are any of our poles that are bad that need to be replaced, we'll do that. If there's copper cables that's no longer in service that need to be cleaned up, our contractor will do that true as we go through the process of building this new network. So we agree there's some cleanup that needs to happen. There are probably some lines that are sagging. We've run into that in other communities, and we'd be more than happy. If David can give us a list of those now, we can go ahead and start working on some of that before we begin construction on the actual fiber part of it.
That's exactly what I was gonna suggest, maybe getting that cleaned up,
Yeah.
so we can see that y'all are, you know, wanting to maintain that.
Right, absolutely.
and definitely go
That's
from
one
there.
reason Court's here. He's the Director of Operations, and so he and his team are responsible today for the copper network throughout the state.
Yes, sir.
So they're the ones that would do that, and Housley Construction is our contractor for this, their lead contractor. We work for them for decades, and they do work for us already down here, and so they're very familiar with it, and he would work with them to get that cleaned up if you can provide some details about exactly where.
Do you have addresses?
Yeah.
Do you have addresses on these?
Oh, well, not on the pictures, but I can definitely get you,
Yeah.
it's all around town, all you have to do is just drive around.
Yeah.
If you just go to your services, it's all around town.
Yeah, they have our email address, if I can just get some addresses,
Yeah.
so I can get a list going for,
Okay.
for houses, we'll start getting.
Or I'd say, if you wouldn't mind, maybe provide us with who's y'all's service providers are, who y'all provide the service to, and we could just drive by and say yes or no kind of thing.
I think your lines run all over town,
No,
regardless if you have
our lines
service.
are completely through Wyman. the
Gotcha.
entire town
Yeah.
right now.
So there's a good chance the majority or of some of it is being not maintained right now, so it definitely.
Yeah.
Are you aware of how many there are? Just curious.
I mean, what-
Take a guess. How many lines are hanging up?
I couldn't even put a guess to. we
They've
could get
been
some-
low
we can
for
give you
a long
footage of
time.
it, but not cable count.
Right, I'm just saying they've been
Sagging.
unserviced for a long time, and that's just not an appearance that councilman, probably everybody else, is concerned about, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's one reason that we like to have the sit-down, face-to-face meeting with the city staff in advance of this, to talk about issues like that, to make sure that we're aware of any issues like that, as well as any local ordinances or things like that, so that we'll know, because every city is a little bit different, okay? And we think the good news is, for Weimar, is most of the network here is aerial. There are some cities we go into where it's majority buried network, and takes longer, and there's opportunity, obviously, to have more damage to the municipal water network or things like that when you have more buried construction. So we know from our experience that this is gonna go a lot smoother in Weimar, but we will clean up the network as we go.
And less eyesore in 15 years, if it's all underground.
Well, the aerial is obviously visible by all the people, not
Right.
necessarily the ground piece. So
Right.
Just as a reference, I would want to make sure when you're doing contract that we have something in there about maintenance being kept up. Just- okay.
Yeah,
Don't state a minimum height for the wires.
there's already standards set forth, right, Derek? There are already height standards set forth in the electric code?
Yes, in the NESC.
What is that height, do you know by chance?
It all varies, depending on, your railroad crossing, highway, city streets, driveways, yeah. I think, highway it's refresh my memory, I think 18 feet or something like that. Yeah, that's crossing over the actual highway. There's not one if it sags in a right of way. If it's between poles and the right of way itself and nothing crossing underneath it, there's not really a specified height for that portion. It's the crossings of roads, like Derek said, roads, railroads, driveways, alley entries, any of that. There's one area I know, I emailed Charlene, pole was replaced already, and I measured it, I think it's at 14 or 16 feet, it's headed out town this way. Well, yeah, we're gonna automatically start doing some of this stuff, now that I have the pictures and I'll get some motivation.
Yes, sir.
My question would be, why hasn't it all automatically been done to date? Why are we looking to bring fiber, following past Rise, who's already been there doing this? And you've been here for years, decades, you say. Why hasn't this been addressed before now? So that this question doesn't have to be asked in this meeting.
Well, I don't think we can point to any one reason. One factor in this is that Frontier was not the company that originally installed this network. GTE was. Now, I'm a former GTE. I worked for GTE for 18 years, and then GTE merged with Bell Atlantic to form Verizon, and I worked for Verizon over 15 years. So I've been in this process in this industry for over 40 years, so I know some of the history about how these networks evolved and developed. And one of the things that contributes to this is that you have a change in ownership, you have a change in personnel, and there's not always new people coming in who know a lot of things that the people who left created or worked on. I have some personal experience with that. And so some of these things fall through the cracks because the new people didn't really know to look for things like that. That's not really a good excuse, but you and I both know that sort of thing happens when you change personnel, when you change companies, you change processes. So some of that's fallen through the cracks over the years. Part of the reason also is because Frontier made the decision that it was going to have to pony up the money. we're spending billions of dollars that we've raised in the private equity markets to do this. That's not an easy choice to make, but we made the decision to do that because it takes not that much money, but it takes money to upkeep the copper network, all right? Well, we're gonna do some of that now that we've got a clear path as to the future of our company so that we stay in business, because if we stayed with the copper network, we would not stay in business. You heard him say we've got around 200 customers now. Well, when it was GTE, everybody was our customer. You had to be, if you had phone service, you had to be our customer. So we serve pretty much 100% of the community. But the technology has changed drastically. More people use wireless. You know, the technologies have changed. That makes it more difficult to justify investing millions of dollars in a technology that's pretty much obsolete. And so once we made the decision to invest in the fiber, that's what we raised the money to do. We've got to clean up the copper network because we're using it as a base for the fiber, but that's why the copper network was not cleaned up before.
So what is the short answer as to why this hasn't been maintained?
The short answer is we don't have a technician over here that we might have enough trouble tickets that are called in on the copper network, that they might be over here once a week, once every 2 weeks, depending on how much trouble there is. So we don't have visibility to it.
Derek, the pole on College Street,
South College.
that's been broke, that was hit by a vehicle, how long has that been broken?
Over here.
A year?
Yeah, a little over a year.
How, the pole by your house has got a white X on it, how long has that been?
Oh, it's been a good while, at least 2 years.
I know way back when, there was a pole leaning at 45 degrees over here by the swimming pool. It took a year for them to remove it and replace it. So these things are ongoing, not just, and the picture there, that when you first drive into Weimar up here by the McDonald's, that's the first thing people see. It's almost touching the ground. New businesses come into Weimar and they can't even maintain their infrastructure. And every wire that looks like that, in the general public's mind, that's an electric line, it belongs to the city. I'm just saying, that's the facts.
Correct.
And we're
No
not
one
here,
knows.
we're not here to beat you up.
Yeah, but it's just that
But-
we've got to keep this, clean this city up.
Yeah.
The phone calls come to City Hall, not to you guys.
We understand that. And one of the things that we did when we met with city staff, we gave them all of our contact information, emails and phone numbers, so that going forward, you're gonna know, and here we are in person, you're gonna know who we are and how to reach us so that we can address issues like this. Because in the past, I realize some cities, they haven't known who to call. I've heard this from other cities, city managers and people like that, you know, we had this problem and we called this 800 number and we could never get anybody. Well, we're not giving you 800 numbers. We're giving you our cell numbers and our emails so that we can address some of these issues. So the bottom line takeaway I'm hoping you're getting from this is a good thing for a lot of reasons, one of which is we've got a real incentive now to clean up the copper network and provide your residents with a good competitive alternative for very high-speed broadband service.
Well, I think if we get those cleaned up in a month or two, get them all cleaned up, and we can go from there.
Great. Other questions?
What's the franchise fee if someone signs up, and what is the per pole fee that y'all pay the city?
The franchise fee is calculated by the PUC, and off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
I can send it to you. It's all documented in the state documents, and then the per pole fee will be within the use agreement, and so that's what's gonna have to be decided upon.
Later.
Yeah, that's later on the agenda.
So
Other questions?
When did you come to the city providing this fiber option?
I'm sorry, what?
When did you come to the city offering this fiber option?
Last month is when we met with the city staff, in February.
February 19th is when we met with the former city manager.
And what prompted that meeting?
Well, we knew we were going to be building the network, and we're doing this with every city that we're going to be going into, to sit down with them on the front end and make them aware of our plans so that we can understand any particular ordinances or things like that, or also to understand the staffing limitations that the city might have, particularly in smaller cities. You know, they can't handle a lot of locates for buried cable or things like that. So we try to have these meetings in every city we're going to, and we're doing this in cities throughout Texas, not just in Weimar, but we're doing it in dozens and dozens of cities throughout the state.
not to put you on the spot again, but you're saying now we would be getting personal cell phone numbers, maybe not personal, but phone numbers to contact you if there is an issue of a line hanging or something.
That's right.
Derek has all of our.
What would be the response time to get that fixed?
Well, it kind of depends on the issue. I mean,
I'm just saying a line hanging that dropped or something. Just
Uh,
something
it-
very simple.
if it's a pole across a street, that's going to be dealt with very quickly.
Okay.
If it's a pole across a yard, maybe not as quickly, because it doesn't impede traffic. So I'm just saying, that's kind of the range there. But I probably should let Court, since he and his team would be the ones that would deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
Would you mind stepping, because people can't actually hear you that are
If it's-
on live stream because you're,
if it's a non-safety issue,
yes.
it's a little bit longer lead time than an actual, like David said, an actual safety issue, pole or line crossing a road. But generally, if it's a right-of-way sagging line, a week.
Okay,
Is what's been run.
Thank you for giving me a
Yep.
specific answer.
Yep.
It was kind of fading away, but you gave me a specific answer, so
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Other
So
questions?
you're on record now, a week is,
Yeah, my name was Ryan.
yeah.
All right?
So
I'm
it
good.
took us years to get to this point, but once we get it all straight, it's gonna be maintained on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Because we're going to have more customers who are going to be here, so we'll be able to have more technicians. We think it's going to be a win-win for you guys as well as for us.
And we'll have something in the contract that will address it if it's not done. Proper. Our attorney's looking at me and then giving me a half smile. We're all good.
Go out there and just cut it.
That's a national issue.
Within a week. Everybody good?
Just
Thank
one
y'all
more
very
Oh,
much.
I'm sorry, Mr. Russell, one more.
Just one more, it just didn't seem like we were important until tonight.
Good point.
I'm sorry you feel that way, but the reality is that we're a business, and so we're not a charity, and so we have to make business decisions. And when you have a very limited number of people on a copper network, it's hard to pony up millions of dollars of investment. The math does not work out for a business, okay? So we're building this network to increase the opportunity we have to subscribe, have customers subscribe. I mean, you know how it works in business. You're going to make an investment expecting a return. Well, we have not been able to justify as much investment because we had lost a lot of customers. So we're kind of going out on a limb here, but we know the technology, we have faith in the technology, that people are going to want this type of technology. Yes, we've got competitors, but we're not afraid of competition. We believe that we're going to be able to price this at a very competitive rate, and we know the technology that we're providing is very competitive as well.
I actually think you just went from bad to worse.
I agree.
So I hope you maintain the customer that you have, and you may or may not gain any.
We think the technology will speak for itself, Mr. Tucker.
We will see.
Yes, sir. Right. Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
If you just close that laptop, that'd be,
Will it just shut off?
yeah.
Okay.
There we go, lights, okay. All right, we'll move to, yes, move to agenda item number 7, which is consent agenda. All consent items are considered routine and will be acted on by one single vote. I will go down these just to make sure we want to include the 4 that are listed here in consent agenda, unless someone wants to pull something out. A, minutes of the March 14th regular council meeting, the March 19th special council meeting, the March 24th special council meeting, and the March 31st special council meeting and April 7th special council meeting. B, special events ordinance. C, shutting down certain streets for Gadinki Festival, May 9th and 10th. Acceptance of resignation for Coy Romine from the Weimar Planning and Zoning Commission, effective April 2nd, 2025.
Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering if we had any more questions about this special events ordinance. Quite a bit of discussion.
Okay, we can pull that out if you so desire, okay? Anything else to be pulled out? Then we'll just consent agenda, then we will do a discussion on item B, which is special events ordinance, okay?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus the special events ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Tucker, second from Councilwoman Roberts. Any additional discussion or changes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I will go, since we're going to business, I'm gonna toss that in as the first one. Special events ordinance, it will be open for discussion.
I just know there were a number of questions last time about what all would that involve. We had issues like all of our fundraisers around town, the food ordinances and those types of things. Mayor, did we get any more clarification on, I mean, I've read through what it says. Do we have any more clarification there, Chief?
There hasn't been any more clarification on it. Let me grab my paper with it. Okay. I went over the ordinance in itself. And when this was first brought around, it was supposed to be more definitive, say, on parade routes and stuff like that. This looks like it would be more limiting for who works it, when they work it, and who pays what and everything of that nature. I don't know if I'm really at liberty to make suggestions but I would suggest we probably bring it back to the drawing board and maybe put in there with some provisions on, when a deposit is paid, charitable organizations, if that deposit may be waived and whatnot. I think there needs to be some more verbiage and possibly cleaning it up. I mean, I know we're trying to streamline and make it on everybody follows one path. That's good in some ways, when it comes to, I'm gonna point it back out, the parade route. So we don't have, the school doing, a lap around the city with one parade, but the Christmas parade goes, down one street. Just something of that nature. But I would probably, suggest more verbiage in it to kind of clean it up. Maybe look at, putting in there about waiving, certain deposits for charitable organizations or fire departments and, all of that nature.
I like that idea.
That's a very good idea.
So where would this come from, at what time? Because obviously you're kind of referencing input on other items. Council have any specific ones that you want to address?
I'm not a big fan of the fees in there. I don't know what sparked that, but, a Christmas parade, definitely, any parade really doesn't need to pay any fees, in my opinion.
Seems like that would be a service to the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that somebody wants to?
The, something exceeding 500 people, was there something in here before about an officer per every 100?
It was
That was a little excessive.
exceeding 500 persons. It's on the first page. And the way I read it was that that's kind of subject when it comes to alcohol sales. So when it was discussed previously in the previous meeting, it was one officer per 100 people.
What even brought this into fruition? I mean, what promoted, what?
As I recall, I think either the chief or the city manager just felt like they wanted some uniformity so that people knew that there was an ordinance they could go look at. I don't know if we were having any issues that, I mean, it could be a solution in search of a problem. I don't know. I've never heard anyone complain about it.
Just leave it as is.
I've been on here for however many years.
There probably are some parades that kind of happen, and it becomes an issue with traffic. More so with animals.
I mean, I'll say, you know, it's completely up to y'all. I mean, we can leave it alone and continue with what is existing now, or if we want to, you know, make something more uniform and streamlined, just like was being said, so somebody has somewhere to go to know what they have to follow, and then we can clean up the revised.
That's a different ordinance. I'll make a suggestion. If council has something that you're specifically wanting addressed, taken out or added, send it to David. And then maybe you bring it back up, or you don't bring it back up at all. I would say bring it back up and you say, hey, all this is added, but it still doesn't mean anything to us. Then you could always decline and not make a motion on it. But to give some input, I mean, we could be here for 2 hours making suggestions and recommendations. I'm not opposed to being here for 2 hours. I'm just saying, if you have something specific you want to pull out.
Go home in 5 minutes.
And she's gone, look at her.
Per Roy's comment, have we had any problems? I mean, you guys have been here years. Are we just creating this because?
To my knowledge, no one's ever gotten mad or came to a council meeting making any.
You know, I could see this kind of standardization for Victoria or Houston or someplace like that. Has it really risen to that kind of question here?
I don't think so.
If nobody puts it back as an agenda item next time, then we're good. It's pulled out now, and there's nothing to be, I'm assuming no one's gonna make a motion to accept it or add changes to it, so, but I'll ask that because it's an agenda item. Anybody else, or Josh, with questions, or David, or Dolores, or me?
We always have questions.
Pardon? Yeah, no, I'll tell you the answer.
I know you will.
Because it is an agenda item, and we did not do it under consent agenda, I will ask for a motion with the additions that someone may have just added. And I'll call for a motion. Okay, not hearing one, I'll call for a second call. Okay, that agenda item dies for lack of motion. Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 8, business. Discuss, consider, an action regarding the following: award of street project bids. Anybody here, or is that you?
Josh, you want to do that, or you want me to? Yeah, go ahead. That'd be page 40, I have marked. Correct? 40?
See, on that page, that's what I'm talking about, page numbers on.
Yeah, page 40. That's where we have the request for proposals. And then skip ahead and I'll find the totals for y'all.
What page?
54.
54? Okay, yeah, 54. So we had one bid come in from H&C Construction. The bid came in at $98,176.36.
What do we have budgeted?
200,000. And I thought it was, well, we were kind of estimating on 60, but we added in the street for the softball fields going into the softball fields. It's horrible.
It is.
Vicki, you had mentioned that one time. So
It's
we're gonna
really bad.
we're gonna do the base work, fill in all the potholes, and he's gonna come in and do an overlay. We're gonna do the 2 streets up north here, North Eagle and, help me out, North St. Andrews. A little strip on West Converse Street, and a little strip by the golf course clubhouse. Kind of broke off where the the water drains, and we're gonna lay the, base, and he's gonna come and blacktop that. The final piece of it will be the, over there by the swimming pool. Right now, it's a dead-end road. We're gonna go ahead and make it one-way from, traveling from east to west. So you'll enter from the east and exit at the west end. Parking on the right-hand side, and I think parallel parking on the left-hand side with a one-way out. And then we'll put in some one-way signs at the west end. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, kind of get that traffic flowing better at the swimming pool. Right now, people have to stop, turn around, kids are playing in the park and things like that, so they can just leave and leave out the west end of that. And that's it. I think he'll do a good job.
And he's done our work year after year after year, so
Done a lot
they're
of work
very
for us.
reliable.
I make a motion that we award H&C Construction for the street projects bid.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Scardino, a second from Councilman Tucker. Any additional discussion?
One comment is, the bid did not include West Converse or the golf course clubhouse, so that will be in addition. I think we have a 25%, yeah, that we can add, so, I just want to make everybody aware of that.
That would be
Those are
important on the motion.
Yeah, two areas that really need to be addressed while he's in town, we can get those taken care of. Just want everybody to know.
That would be in addition to
The
what we just
98.
approved.
Yes, so a motion needs to state that, because right now you're accepting the 98,
Right.
and that's not on here.
So it was the golf course clubhouse and what else?
West Converse.
West Converse. It's it's a little strip about 3 houses wide, where we did some curbing work, and it's just that gap between the two.
So I will revise my motion to include West Converse and the golf course clubhouse.
Second.
Okay, additional discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item number B, request from Tom Vargas to do fireworks show for wedding on May 31st at Veterans Baseball Field. Josh, you have any input on that for us, sir?
I do.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So we do have municipal code that prohibits the use of the fireworks, 5.03001. Of course, with that, city council can obviously elect to allow it, for a special event. Also, but prior to that, the regulation of fireworks and fireworks display, the Texas Occupation Code and the Texas Administrative Code, does say that they have to apply for pyrotechnic display and permit through the state fire marshal's office before any of that can actually come to city council to get approved. So they have to make the application, pay the permit fees, get approved, and everything of that nature before it can even come to city council to be approved. I printed out the rule book just for my reference, but if anybody would like to see it, I did do some highlights and whatnot as well throughout it.
Did they do that for the church picnics? Well, not that long, I mean, it's been a couple years. since
City
they've done
fireworks?
And I believe if there's a burn ban, you gotta go through
Been a couple years, yeah.
that. I do remember them doing one. It's been a couple years ago.
You've also, previous meetings, you've turned down people that wanted it for wedding purposes and stuff, so just be aware that you've declined some folks in the past. You guys haven't because you haven't been here, but, and you're gonna open the door in the future. I'm not telling you what to do or not.
Sure, bunch of damn insurance.
Yes, sir.
We want to be an additional insured, I mean, if you guys are even thinking you're gonna do it, let me know and we'll draft something up, but we're sure not gonna do it, just, hey, go do it. I mean, they're gonna get a 10-page document that's gonna cover us, for sure.
Well, I think if they go through all of that, I don't see an issue. If they go through all of those.
Do you have any concerns, Josh?
If it's dry, I do.
Yes.
Yeah. Chief will.
If it is dry, my concern was to be paying attention to the burn bans and, have that added to the ordinances, to where there wouldn't be a firework, any firework use. But I will say if we amend the ordinance come 4th of July and everything like of that nature, it is going to increase the firework call volume uncontrollably.
You let it happen now, you're gonna,
I think it'd be hard to go against precedent, already said.
Right.
and also fire department would probably have to be out there.
If we're in Birmingham. Or up the chief, I guess would be.
I think you'd want it either way. You know, you'd want to make sure whoever's doing it's got whatever
Yeah.
licenses are required.
I'm pretty sure it's Vargas to the.
Fireworks shows can go south pretty quickly.
I think the last, one time they actually did it behind, well, outside the city limits, which we had no say-so to, but it's by the Veterans Hall. Yep. But it was behind Alex Ladner's house, which is outside the city limits. And there were fire trucks there with them. Not looking at you for an answer, I just looked at you because you're fireman and you're fireman.
To see why someone would want it, but there's just a lot of safety issues.
Okay, thank you. Just, I'll call for a motion if there is one. Okay, second call for a motion. Okay, hearing none, motion fails because lack of a motion. Okay, agenda item C, Frontier Joint Usage. David, are you coming up or? Nobody have anything?
We don't have a presentation plan.
Okay, just in case there's any questions on it, I guess we'll address that.
Bo, did you review that?
I just did, it needs work. I mean, the biggest thing I can see as of today, which I'm sure you noticed, David, is that it references the fee schedule as blank.
The very last page? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have no idea, that's a business decision, but, there's some stuff in here that I think needs to be changed, choice of law provisions, arbitration provisions. There's some stuff about insurance that I don't think would really apply to us, where it says we're supposed to carry $2 million in DL and make them an additional insured. So it needs some work. I'll look at it. The answer, David, is no, I have not gone through it.
Okay, so maybe by the next council meeting, or?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I can
And
probably
if I'm allowed to speak, that's really, we just need y'all's feedback, so we can at least have our attorneys look at it as well, and then send you back a revised version.
Okay, how about that, we'll have Bo look at it first, make any changes, and then we'll present it back to you. And
Yes,
you
sir.
can-
And then we'll have our attorneys look at it
Okay,
until we come to an agreement.
sounds
Is there
good.
an existing joint use agreement for the copper that's on the pole?
In the meeting in February, that's why we started this conversation, because the former city manager was not aware of one or couldn't
I
find
hate
one.
to ask you, but could you step up to the podium? Yes,
Yeah.
because we have people that are on live stream
No,
that
you're
can't
good.
normally hear back.
I apologize.
No, it's okay.
So Ryan O'Neill with Frontier Communications. So when we met on February 19th with the former city manager, he was not aware of a joint use agreement. And so I had our joint use team at least start a draft so we can go back and forth because we couldn't find one either on our records. Actually, what it said back in the day, in '83, I believe it was, the city of Weimar chose not to develop a joint use agreement with GT at the time. And so there's been nothing in place for 40-plus years. So this will be new that we put in place.
Yeah. David, and I think I emailed you this, what of the poles that have city utilities on them, what percent of those are owned by the city versus owned by Frontier?
Derek, I'm gonna pass that on to you.
I would almost,
Come join me, Derek.
I'm trying to respect the folks in the
Yeah, that are.
3 blocks out.
I would almost say there's probably, say, 75 to 80% we own the poles. And then, they're in like the alleys where we don't have power poles or down roads where we don't have power poles, they set their own poles.
Right, but no, what I'm asking is, are we running city power on a pole we don't own?
No.
Okay, so as far as we're concerned, we own 100% of the poles that our power's on.
Correct, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think one thing I would want input from the city on is these kind of orphan poles. So stop me if you already know this. The way a pole works is, like, if we own a pole and then we take our electricity off, we essentially abandon it, and then it belongs to the next person down, which would be Frontier, because I don't think anyone else is on the poles.
Yes, that's,
Yeah, because
That's our
it's
plan,
a
sir.
eyesore, like going out towards the school. You got like two poles, one of them is a new power pole, the other one is just old lean-in and it's just nothing but, communications on it, so.
I mean, would it be possible to identify on a map all of the poles we don't own? Because it sounds like if it's a pole we don't own, it doesn't have city utilities, because we own all our own poles. And then, you know, and then we can figure out who's on these poles, and maybe we can kind of get a, not just, maybe we can invite everyone else to come stand at the podium and get, listen to Councilman Tucker explain the problems that we don't feel appreciated, which is understandable.
And we can also provide a map of poles we own in the
Yeah,
city
I mean,
that
I
you
think-
can overlay then on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
GIS data that you have for your poles.
Yeah, I mean, I think council probably would like to see that, because it sounds like we do better maintaining the stuff where we own the pole, because we're out there with our wires, and the bigger problem maybe, and it's, again, I'm not picking on Frontier, but it's that the poles that are owned by others don't get much attention historically, and maybe this would be our opportunity, not just with you, I mean, heck, if we don't have a joint use agreement with these other telecommunications utilities, we can strong arm them there too.
Oh, we do have a pole rental fee that's paid by Frontier every year.
Okay.
But to find that document, y'all couldn't find it and we couldn't find it.
I think the
And that's
price
a-
is very minimal too.
It's very minimal. It's $1.50 per pole, and according to our own.
Ordinance is nowhere near that anymore.
Ten of them.
I
But
mean, when he said GTE, I mean, my grandmother in East Bernard, he said GTE.
That price was probably back in 1920.
It was a long distance call, they called my grandma in East
Well, I
Bernard.
think it was, what was it, a month or two ago, it was brought to council with RISE to do one, for the businesses back here. And I mean, I know we have agreement with them that was accepted.
Yeah.
Are all the poles in town numbered, correct? They have a little silver tag on
There should be a tag on it.
Yes.
Okay. Is their poles in our numbering system, or is their poles not in our numbering system?
It's not,
Okay.
but thing is, our numbering system, it's, a company came in, tagged all the poles, but it doesn't reference any maps or anything we have. But the thing is, it has, I know. But they have little square tags that, you know, it shows whether it's a joint or foreign, which would be theirs pole or something like that, so.
and we do have some that we take a credit, they give them a credit that we use their pole, the same pole, or their poles.
We lost that agreement too, Dolores.
That was before my time. That was a long time.
We'll get all this answered. Please come back next month. We
Yeah,
definitely want y'all
Put
to-
it
I'm
together.
not trying to tell you what to do. Really, the next step is for us to get a draft back from you guys.
Yeah.
And then, because that way you've all had a chance, the attorneys had a chance to weigh in on it, send us the draft, and then once everybody agrees, then at that point, it probably comes to council to sign off on it.
It'd be good to have some maintenance done when it comes back, just to.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. We'll start that immediately.
we'll work together with Derek and our.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we also have to see, is it our line? I mean,
Correct.
you do have other communication providers throughout the city that it could be their line, but if it's ours, even if it's theirs, we need to reach out to them, partner with them to say, hey, come fix it. Or in Texas, it is a one-touch state, so it's a simple one-touch, so if we need to do something, we can always do it and then cross-bill them, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
So I think, when you look through the agreement, the thing I would want feedback from council on is, do you want to try to control and force removal of non-city poles? You know, like he was talking about, where we put in a new pole and the telecommunications providers just keep the old pole next to our new pole. They don't want to spend the money to go move their stuff to the new pole. You guys want to try to force?
I think we should.
Clean it
I think
up.
we should, it'd definitely clean it up. I definitely think so.
Key word there was pole.
Yeah, so I see that if we have an electric pole here and an electric pole here, and they need a utility pole in the middle of it, then they would have to have their own pole, you know.
Right.
So there's gonna be circumstances where if it's within a proximity of ours, then they'll need to move it onto our pole. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, if there's a necessity for the pole, then yeah, they should keep it. What I'm talking about is, and you see it everywhere.
Clustered,
you see
all
it-
clustered
you see
together,
it
yeah.
everywhere, is that the utility, the electric utility company puts in a nice new pole, they move their stuff, they literally cut the pole off right above the next highest line, and then that old pole sits there for 20 years next to the new pole.
Yeah, and usually the way it works is, yes, they top off the old pole, and that old pole sits. Usually Frontier, since we're the old telephone company, we're the very bottom. So we're usually the last ones that move the service, because usually right after power's cable. So until cable moves theirs, because we've got to be 40 inches from power. So until cable moves theirs, we don't really know where to place ours. So I agree, there needs to be some type of verbiage of requesting other telecommunications to move theirs, or like I said, it is a simple one-touch that whomever you ask to do it, they can move cable, Rise, Sparklight, Frontier, everybody can move it. I mean, even the city as a power company has that right to move it, I believe, in some of the verbiage.
What great education today.
Yeah, thank you.
Ryan, that's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, it's an action item. Any other discussion? Call for a motion. Second call. Okay, hearing none, item dies for lack of a motion. Okay. Agenda item 8D, ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Article 12.05.002, restrictions on operation of commercial vehicles, truck routes, see limited on weight. David?
Yeah, I guess
okay.
I'll
There we go.
speak on what, kind of issue on this. He was supposed to be here today, and he's actually on a wreck right now. So, I think with that ordinance, what became an issue is, his driver was parking the wrecker on the road right away on the side in front of his house, because you can't fit it in the driveway, or it's, once he pulls in the driveway, he's not able to park his personal vehicles. But with this ordinance, he's not able to do that because it's a commercial vehicle, but really, I would say it's really an emergency vehicle, so really, I don't know if that ordinance even covers that as a commercial vehicle, if it's considered an emergency vehicle. So that's kind of what that's about on that.
Josh, you want to speak up? Yes, he's done more research.
Okay. So the tow truck is not a commercial motor vehicle at all. Nowhere in there, it's actually classified just a motor vehicle with mechanical equipment or winch or a device to move or tow another vehicle. So under the transportation code and everything of that nature, is not classified as a commercial motor vehicle. So technically, that ordinance doesn't even apply to the tow truck.
Okay.
So now, when it comes to emergency motor vehicle, the Senate bill did go into effect actually back in 2013 for the Texas Division of Emergency Management to allot what is an emergency vehicle. When the slow down, move over law came about, the emergency management decided, tow trucks need to be emergency vehicles as well. They are emergency vehicles when at the scene for that time, period. They're not technically an emergency vehicle going to and from and the day-to-day operations. They're only classified an emergency vehicle at that time. To amend the ordinance to have that vehicle parked there, the tow truck parked there, or whatever, I would probably revert to the engineering of the road. I don't know how much that tow truck weighs, but can the road withstand it? So if the road can withstand it, of course, the ordinance can be amended. The only thing it says with the gross vehicle weight, which a tow truck fits in the gross vehicle weight, either single axle or tandem axle. So it just needs to revert to the engineering of the road. Otherwise, it's good to figure out, on the emergency vehicle side, it's good on the commercial motor vehicle side because it is not a commercial motor vehicle in any part of its use whatsoever. If it has a truck or a vehicle loaded on top of it, it's still not a commercial motor vehicle.
I think if you want to maintain the integrity of the road, if he does have to back into his driveway, then that constant grinding of those front wheels, we had a school bus do that in front of our house. It just constantly grinds.
Bus 23.
It'll constantly
Let me
grind,
spit over there.
and it'll deteriorate the road right there in front. So I think y'all are aware of that situation, so pulling in straight and leaving is better than backing and grinding, I think.
Gotcha.
So are you saying we need to increase the weight limit per axle, or we don't even need to do that for this?
You wouldn't even need to do that at all because what the weight limit per axle is regarding commercial motor vehicle, not just a motor vehicle. So the ordinance wouldn't need to be amended at all for this. It's just a matter of, within the other ordinance on the parking of the overnight parking of the vehicles, will it fit within our city ordinances or how they want to park? So, nothing would have to be done to amend the ordinance.
So Kyle, what is he needing to do?
He's just wanting to be able to park in front of his house, so he doesn't have to.
So park it on the street.
Correct, parallel park, like all the parking spots
Is
are
that
out
where
right
we
now.
changed the direction of
That
the
is correct.
parking?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And as it exists now, he could do that, no problem, or no?
I don't know, last chief supposedly, I guess, went to him and said there was a complaint, so he couldn't do it, because I guess it was considered, then, I don't know if he didn't look up the ordinance maybe, or I don't know if he just said that he wasn't able to do it now, so I guess now we're covered, so we're good then.
Because during that whole time last time, it had to deal with the two last spots of that parking. Since then, the city went through and eliminated the two spots closest to his residence, and then it's angled parking throughout the rest. As long as he can fit the vehicle parallel to the curb in those two last spots, now, he could take up his own driveway, it's his driveway. The city ordinance says you can't block someone else's driveway, it's his driveway, he can block it. It's his burden, right? So as long as he does not cross the line to the marked spots that are angled that's on the street, then he could park on that. Now, will it come up again, in the future, possibly of, people not being able to see around the truck, whatnot? Absolutely. It could possibly come up. So that's gonna be something that needs to be prepared for if it does come up. So it's just something to take into consideration.
Thank you for explaining it
Thank
that way.
you.
Just
Appreciate it.
everybody that rides by it that's gonna make comments, they now know that it's okay.
Thank you.
I'll call for a motion. Second call, hearing none. The item dies for lack of motion. That's 3 in a row. And we're still here. Agenda item number 9, future agenda items. Anyone?
I think we need to add something, all the loose dogs again that are running around town, they're constantly, we need to figure out something. Either tickets need to be written, or it's constant, loose animals everywhere.
As long as we can identify.
If we can identify who it is, or whether we go to an identification system or something, we just need to hold people accountable.
We have a ordinance for that. It's just, we don't have to actually put it as an agenda item other than you're just instructing the city manager to
Enforce the
ordinance.
Or if we could maybe bring up an idea of maybe getting some kind of identification system through the city, kind of like the vet clinics have the tags, and that way you can actually.
They do offer a microchipping program. Different cities have it, where everybody owns a dog is required to do that program. It's done through the local vet, and then and an officer would have a scanner, and they could know who it was, and all the shot records, all that stuff immediately. But that's something we could do in the future as a
Correct.
program.
It'd be
We
something
needed something immediately to take care of the
Correct.
immediate cause, but that's a
Correct.
thought. We've
Yeah.
talked about it before.
Do something.
99% of the loose dogs are gonna end up not being chipped.
That's, yeah,
Then it goes one step further.
yeah.
Then they go to Josh's pound.
So that's something that I wanted to address. yesterday, I sat down with the city manager, and out of the seizure funds, we're actually going to be putting up an extra building that's going to provide 2 extra kennels, temporary kennels. What we've been running to in the problem was, and we identified it being a bigger problem now when with the dog bite, they had to quarantine in Columbus. Now we're able to put up that structure, and that's in the works. We got the building ordered, and the dirt's going to be delivered. So we're starting that process. So hopefully, 2 to 3 weeks, it'll be finished. But now we're going to be able to provide 2 extra 10x10s plus the existing kennel that we have there. So we have a quarantine separated from regular impound. So we'll be able to house more animals with the stray dogs. We're running into the problem of you can't house an animal together, 2 animals together in case, fights or whatever, that's liability on the city. So, hopefully after it gets done in about 3 weeks, we'll be able to address the issues a lot more proactively in the future.
Josh, you guys are the animal control officers now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So Kyle, you want anything as an agenda item?
No, I think we'll just see how it goes and go from there, but definitely something to look into.
We'll put extra attention on that.
Okay, agenda item number 10, announcements.
Poetry night, we're about 30 minutes late on that. The community shredded event is April 19th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Weimar Spring Cleanup Day is Saturday, April 26th from 8 to 12. The next council meeting is at 12 p.m. on May 9th. And Weimar Gedenki is May 9th and 10th.
That's it.
And just me personally, Josh, if you could, I know we have some junk vehicles that is part of Safe Built, but it's also part of stuff that's on the city. If you could ask your officers to maybe be aware of what's been parked on the street for a long, long time. Now, Ms. Roberts is normally the junk vehicle person, but I'm speaking today, so,
I was actually
Thank
looking
you,
up
Mayor.
the maintenance and all that today as well.
thank you. Yeah. Again, summertime, there's gonna be more people in town and just, whether it's a low-hanging wire, just picking it up, or a junk vehicle.
Beating that horse.
Yes, sir.
Or
We weren't here to
loose dog.
beat you up.
I'll let
Or a
you
loose
know.
dog.
Loose dog and low hanging wire.
Yeah, the dog hung on the wire under the truck.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn, and we're